All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're so delighted to see so many people in our virtual meeting, this wonderful webinar gathering. I know many of you, but not all of you, so I'll introduce myself first. I'm Jennifer Matse. I'm faculty in music, Asian studies, and anthropology at Union College in Schenectady, New York. And I am also the co-chair with Justin Hunter of the Japanese Performing Arts Special Interest Group of the Society of Ethnomusicology. And I hope you can tell by today's topic that we take a very broad view of what performing arts means and welcome a lot of different approaches to this practice, this area of practice. So let me welcome you all today to our special session, which is on the way of tea with Yuko Eguchi, who Justin will be giving a longer introduction to in just a moment. I do want to let you know this is, of course, sponsored by the Japanese Performing Arts Special Interest Group of the Society of Ethnomusicology. This is also co-sponsored by Union College Asian Studies, as well as the University of Arkansas. So for me, this is a wonderful moment where we are seeing Zoom opening up more collaboration across the country and indeed across the world as we are inviting people into this meeting from all around the globe. We do want to make sure that you all are able to reach out to us. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my email into the chat. Just in case anyone would like to suggest future events that we could organize. Justin and I are hoping that this will in fact be the first of many such webinars where we can take full advantage of each other's talents and interests and come together and see each other on a regular basis. So please, please, please feel free to shout out, send any kinds of ideas for future such events to us. But without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor, I guess it's still a floor, the Zoom platform over to Justin, so that he can introduce our lovely speaker today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone coming today. I'm really excited. The interest shown for our speaker today. I've known Yuko for many years, and I'm so glad that she's our first speaker. And what Jennifer and I hope will be many talks like this. So I'm going to read her bio for you, and then introduce her for her. She'll give a talk about the performance practice, but then we're also going to be able to see an actual tea ceremony today, which is really great that we can do that even over Zoom. It's great. So Yuko Eguchi is a native of Tokyo, Japan, and received her PhD in ethnomusicology in 2016 from the University of Pittsburgh, where she currently teaches. She studied Japanese geisha music and dance called kouta and koutaburi, and was granted kouta master title Kasuga Toyo Yoshiyu in 2012. She also holds the assistant professor title of tea, Soyu, from the Urasenke school in 2013. She's performed and lectured on Japanese traditional arts at multiple institutions. And you can find out more about her at yukoeguchi.com. And without further, we'll let her take over. You're gonna see three different angles from her, but we'll see her speaking first from her office, and then you'll see the ceremony area in a bit. So I'm gonna replace the pin and turn it over to Yuko.
Thank you so much, Justin-san, and thank you so much, Jennifer-sensei, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm very honored to be the first speaker for this series, and I'm a little nervous, I have to say, but I hope you can hear me and see me okay, and thank you all for joining me. So great to see you. So since we have a limited time, I'm gonna just jump into our lecture. So let me share my screen. I would like to talk to you about history and philosophy about tea ceremony first, and so that we know the backgrounds, what's involved and everything. Can you see the screen okay, the slides? All right, thank you so much. If you have any issues, please do turn the microphone on and then shout, and so that I'll be able to troubleshoot as much as possible. Okay, so here we go. today's focus is pretty a wide range of period of time, but mostly it will be right around this time, the Azuchi Momoyama or warring state, when the Japan was going through the battles and samurais were killing each other and trying to figure out who's going to be the top, who's going to be the leader of the country. And so that's the time period that mostly we're going to talk about, and especially where our focus is the Sen no Rikyu, the tea master. But we're going to go back a little bit time before during this Kamakura Heian, that at the end of the Heian and Kamakura period, when the Zen Buddhism along with the tea culture came to Japan. And so that's kind of where we are going to look at. So it's about 500 years ago or more that we'll be looking at today. So as mentioned, tea and Zen have a very, very deep connection to each other. So I wanted to just lay out what the Zen is about so that we can see how Zen really influenced to the Japanese tea ceremony culture. So here, I think many of you already know about the Zen Buddhism, and so, but it was brought by Bodhidharma here. He is very famous as an icon, cultural icon, as a Dharma. But he's basically brought this Zen Buddhism from India to China, and he spread it to all over China, and then that came to Japan later on. But this Zen is mostly about the meditation. It's about sitting and meditate, and that's about it. And then to basically seek personal enlightenment. This is the state of Satori, that you're trying to be close to obtain this one's Buddha's nature state, which is a very difficult concept. So I haven't reached it there yet, so I don't really know what it's like, but that's what they were trying to do through sitting and meditating. And the Zen Buddhism, its characteristics is that it does not trust the words, spoken or written. So they're not trying to write out everything, those teachings in the written words or written forms, and this because they think the words are illusions. And so that's called Huryu-monji. So meaning that you just have to do it with your body. So you just have to sit and meditate. Don't think about it. Don't write about it. Don't talk about it. Just do it. So it's kind of like that, like a Nike, just do it. That's the Zen Buddhism. And also teaching the Satori is only passed down through heart to heart, not by, you have a lecture like this. It's supposed to be without words, connecting with your heart to your teacher's heart. And that's how it should supposed to be taught to your students. So it's this kind of ideology and the characteristics really speaks to the tea ceremony as well, and many other Japanese traditional art forms too. So that's something that we are going to look at. So quickly, there are two types of Zen Buddhism in Japan that came. One was it was found by this guy Dogen, Zenmo Dogen. He found the Soto sect, and this one is basically you sit and meditate, and that's all. And there is a written text, Shobo Genzo, that was actually the Bible for Steve Jobs, the Apple computer CEO. He read a lot about this book and then learned about the Zen Buddhism, and they tried to make the Apple merchandises reflecting those simplicity and then the beauty itself, that aesthetics are in it. That's coming from the Zen Buddhism. But this one is basically you sit and meditate, empty your mind, you just do it, and that's all about it. The other one is this Rinzai sect, which is founded by Zen monk Eisai. He went to China to learn this and brought it back to Japan right around this turn of the century to, at the end of 1190s and then turn of the 1200s. But his sect is more of this question and answer form. So they pose a question that's really difficult to answer. So for example, how does a one hand clapping sound like? It's like, how do you clap with one hand, right? And first of all, but that's, trying to question this kind of riddle style question and trying to come up with the answer. And through that interactions, they are trying to reach to the state of the satori, the enlightenment state. So that's another way of trying to get that Buddha state. So anyways, the most important part is this Eisai, the Zen monk. He went to China and then brought back the Zen Buddhism. And at that time, he did bring back also the tea culture that was practiced at the Zen Buddhist temples, and which wasn't the same as the one that you are going to see today, but it's a different type of culture, just, drinking tea as during the day to before or after, so that the tea has a caffeine in it, and so that will keep you stay awake. And so they drank the tea in between those meditation sessions and trying to stay awake. So those tea seeds, tea plants, he brought back with him along with the Zen Buddhism too. So I want you to keep in mind that tea and Zen have a very, very strong connection. And this is kind of the route how the tea and tea seeds and tea related materials came to Japan. And that time, the capital was in Kamakura, so here. Before then, the capital was in Kyoto, so it just moved to the eastwards then. So what's important is that this Eisai, the Zen monk, he wrote a record of drinking tea for healthy life. Is basically trying to introduce the tea as something that's very good for your health. We should start cultivating more tea and tea seeds and tea plants and leaves and all, and then try to make a habitual thing to drink tea in Japan. And so he introduced tea to the shogun Minamoto no Sanetomo here, who was the top of the country. He was the military lord, and then he was also the kind of president of Japan back then. And he was the second son of the Yoritomo, who was the first shogun of the Kamakura government. But anyways, third shogun Sanetomo, he had a party a night before. He drank a lot of sake, and so he was drunk and he was hangover. And that time, and the next morning, the Eisai, the Zen monk, he went to see him, and he saw that the shogun is having some problem with the headaches and kind of nauseousness. And so the Zen monk Eisai said, "Okay, why don't you drink this tea? It's after you drinking this one, you will feel better, much better." And then so the shogun did, and then he did feel a lot better, and he was like, "What is this miracle drink?" And so Eisai said, "This is the tea that I brought back from China along with the Zen Buddhism." So that's how it first kind of introduced. And so tea was considered as or used as a medicine back then while he was around. So it was very precious. They were all imported from China through Korea, and then the Japan to go to Korea and China, that's a couple of months way to be on the ship, and it was a very dangerous trip to make. And so that's how it first came and introduced, and very, very priced commodity back then. And about 160 years later from that time, the tea drinking culture stuck around, but mostly around the highest ranking people, aristocratic members, court members, and also the higher class members, and with the wealthy people. And first of all, the Ashikaga no Yoshimitsu, he's the third Muromachi government shogun. He was the cultural, very educated person. He was also a soldier, so he was a military leader, but at the same time, he was the very important patron of the arts. Especially, he was supporting financially to Zeami Motokiyo. He was the famous playwright who wrote a bunch of beautiful, wonderful no plays. And it's not the yes or no, it's called just no. And it's a performance culture. But he was asking the playwright Zeami to write the plays that basically reflects this aesthetics that's reflecting that Heian period, those flamboyant, colorful culture of the Heian period, courtier culture, but mixing it with those roughneck, rough soldier, those soldier stories, the samurai aesthetics into it. So during his time, these aesthetics and culture were called Kitayama culture, the North Mountain, where this golden pavilion, his residence was is. And so that's his aesthetic style. And then after that, these tea drinking culture started to be a little bit more popular for the higher end middle class. And this time they were importing lots of these porcelains, potteries, those tea bowls, textiles, and scrolls still from the Ming China. And those are the prized possession, very valuable. And those were colorful, gorgeous, precious, very expensive. So people start to collect these items, artistic items. And then people also started to drink tea more because they started to grow more Japanese grown tea. And those the tea from the tea seeds that Eisai monk he brought to Japan. And but still the quality of tea was a little bit inferior than the Chinese made, but still the people started to drink more and more tea. But this time the tea drinking became more of a luxurious kind of play and pastime, and one is called tocha, this tea fighting culture or tea gambling culture. This is something that basically that you can see in this picture. Each one of them who are gathered to have tea, they are going to be presented with TA and TB and TC, and you drink one sip out of each bowl, and then trying to guess which tea is coming from which region of China or which region of Japan, and then try to bet the money on it. And so that's how they did tea gambling. And so you can see these servants preparing the meals and snacks and also the tea, trying to start serving and to do this tea fighting or tea gambling culture. And obviously this is a very polluted culture. And so the government had to step in and to ban it, because many people bet their money, but not just the money, they bet their all the possessions, houses, and then whatever that land and whatever that they can put their hands on, they bet those for this tea gambling, and many people lost their fortunes. So anyway, gambling is bad, just keep that in mind. But anyways, these gambling, and also chayoriai, which is a tea party, big party, having dancing, singing and drinking, and then drinking sake and all, and that was a type of the tea drinking culture too. And obviously there are people who resented this kind of monetized to luxurious style of tea. That's the time that the tea master Senno Rikyu comes in. So anyways, that kind of tea culture is still going on with this higher class rich people, but then aesthetically the art style has changed. This is the time that the Yoshimitsu, with the golden pavilion, beautiful, gorgeous, colorful, that aesthetics starts to be toned down at the time when his grandson comes in, the Ashikaga Yoshimasa, in charge, and he's the one who built this ginkakuji, the silver pavilion, but he didn't put the silver on it. And then this becomes the Japanese architectural traditional house, those styles model to it. And so the one aesthetic that came actually from the Zen artistic aesthetic was this kare sansui, dry landscape. So you use the stones and pebbles and to represent there are mountains, there are rivers, there are lakes, and then so forth. So it's very abstract, but it's there's not much color to it. And so it's cold and withered and lonely aesthetics. And so it's a very colored down, toned down status. That's the aesthetics that was very famous, popular around here. And that's called Higashiyama culture, the East Mountain culture, where this ginkakuji, the silver pavilion, is built. And this culture is basically mixing those old heian, the old flamboyant, colorful courtier, and then the samurai culture that you saw with the grandfather Yoshimitsu, the snow style, but he put more Zen elements to it. So this Zen style housing that became the basics of the tea room. As you can see, this tea showing style, the study or living room. Each room is very small room and cloistered, and then there used to be a wooden floor, but they started to put tatami mats over it, and you have these paper screen to open door, and you don't put the paintings on there. You just see the outside garden, and that will be your paintings. That will be your art that you can see through from your room. And then those staggered shelves, that's not symmetrical. Symmetrical is the aesthetics from China. In Japan, this time they like the asymmetrical, not the straight line, and so forth. So this has become the aesthetics of this cold, withered, lonely Zen style of art. And you will see this in the tea room. So tea ceremony, as you call it in English, is not quite, we call it in Japanese. It's actually called chanoyu. Cha means tea, no is of, and yu is boiling water. And this was the way it used to be called, tea of boiling water. But when the turn of the century, about 1868, the Meiji period comes in, they started to call it as chado. Cha means tea, and do means way. So the way of tea. So what is this tea, the way of tea? It is an act of boiling the water, whisking green tea powder, and serving into the guests. So it sounds very, very simple. However, it's not as simple as you think. You might have guessed. So Sen no Rikyu, the tea master, he once said, tea is enough if it satisfies thirst. This thirst, actually, he's talking about not just the physical dryness of your throat and hunger that it feels, not just that, it's the mental, your heart and soul that fills with the tea. So that's what he was talking about, the do in the tea, or the practicing tea will fulfill your mental, the soul and the heart part. And so simple act of making tea became very, very stylized form of art. And that Sen no Rikyu, the tea master, he was the one who kind of finalized this artistic form in the late 1500s. So I entered the do, it's not do, it's do, the path as a teenager, because there were some Japanese cultural classes that were offered while I was growing up in Tokyo, Japan, in the middle school, where the old girls school, and then they offered this tea ceremony, flower arrangements, how to put on a kimono classes all along. And my mom one day said, if you take tea ceremony class, then you'll be able to eat sweets and drink tea before you come home. So what do you say? So I was like, all right, sign me up. And that's how I started. So my motivation was very polluted in a way. It's not pure, because I was just hungry. I wanted to eat sweets and tea. But anyways, that's how I started. And then when I went to Bates College in Lewiston, Maine, that was the first time I had some kind of identity crisis moment, that many of my American friends, they came to me and asked me, oh, you're Japanese. What do you do? What can you do? I'm like, how am I supposed to answer that? And I was like, well, I do Japanese tea ceremony. Does that count? And that's the time I realized, oh, I do need to learn more about my own culture and history in order to be a Japanese. And so please keep in mind, if you're American, I might ask you one day, you're American, what do you do? And then just make sure that you'll be able to answer me that question. But anyways, so I continue on practicing tea, and I received this tea master named Soyu. The so was given from the Sen Soshitsu. He is the current headmaster of the Urasenke school, which I belong to. So basically his great grandfather was Sennorikyu. He served as a doboshu. It's like a servant or a party organizer. So he was kind of like Martha Stewart back then, trying to organize and then make the list of the items that these two possessed, the Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And these two are two of the three unifiers of Japan who were very smart, who were the soldiers who were, very good at battles and very good at politics and everything. And he served for both of them as a right-hand man. And that became a little bit problematic, that the Sennorikyu became like a host because with the command from him, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, okay, please welcome these higher ranking person from this region, that region, and then host the tea and talk to them about this politics, this and that, what to do with this land and what to do with this rewards and so forth. And so he was dealing with all those, and then people started to go talk to Sennorikyu about the soft issues. And so he started to have more and more power in a way because he knew those secrets from those, higher ranking people, from those, governmental position people. So there were some disagreements with Hideyoshi, and he was ordered seppuku, the ritual suicide, that he had to kill himself at the end. But anyways, Sennorikyu was the one who resented that they were those monetized, really polluted tea culture was going on. And he said, that's enough. The tea is not supposed to be that. Tea is supposed to be connected to Zen and meditative acts. So he reinforced this tea and Zen connections, and then also formalized the tea procedures, meaning every single steps you see at the tea room after this, those are all choreographed, all set. There is no improvisation going on. So the only movements that's needed to make the tea is there. There's no wasted move. And also he tried to find the beauty in the simplicity, imperfection, and the nature. And especially this is the wabi, the aesthetics, austere refinement that you will see. That's very connected to those Zen aesthetics, that rustic and lonely. And it's very colored, toned down thing. So take a look at the tea scoops. First of all, there are two types. One is the bamboo made, the other one is ivory made. Which one do you think is that reflects Rikyu's wabi style? Ivory made? Anybody? Bamboo made? Anybody? Okay, I see some people shaking or they're nodding their head. So it's bamboo made is a Rikyu style. Next one, chaire, the tea container. Which one reflects Rikyu's style? Gold lacquered or black lacquered? Gold? Black? Yes, it is. The black lacquered is the Rikyu style. Again, the tea bowl, the rakuchawan or tenmokchawan. Which one? The rakuchawan? Tenmokchawan? Okay, thanks for your thumb. Yeah, Rikyu style is the rakuchawan. So you can see, you start to see those aesthetical patterns there. So let's try to go to the tea house. You can see that in order to go to the tea house, you have to go through this loji, the tea garden path. And then by the tea house, there's this small stone basin where you wash your hands and mouth. And then you go closer to the tea hermitage, and then you go through this tiny little door, side door, and you have to basically lower your head in order to go through that gate. The reason is that inside of the tea room, everybody is treated equal. It doesn't matter if you're a royalty or peasants, everybody is treated equal. So everybody has to bow down, lower your head to show your humbleness. And then especially if you're a samurai carrying the swords, you have to leave that behind. Outside there are hooks, you have to leave there, because inside a tea room, it's supposed to be peace. It has to be peaceful. So inside a tea room, you'll see this. Basically, you have a paper screen door. There is maybe a little bit of flower and this scroll here with the writings on it, usually a Zen words there. but nothing else. So this is a concept from the Zen Buddhism. It's the nothingness or emptiness. It's written in the Heart Sutra, Hanya Shingyo. It says, form is emptiness. Emptiness is the form. So you see nothing in everything. You see everything in nothing. It sounds like very contradicting, but that's the Zen way of thinking. So you try to see in this tiny little room, the universe, the whole universe is going on, but also vice versa. You're trying to see the whole universe into this tiny little room. So something like that. So it's, mind-blowing way of the idea, but that's the Zen Buddhism is about. So the four important tea philosophy from the Sen no Rikyu is Wake, Seijaku. Wa is the harmony, Kei is respect, Sei is purity, Jaku is tranquility. So first, Wa, harmony, to be friendly to others. So in this political negotiation tea room, you have to be able to be sensible to what others are saying. You have to read between those lines, kind of. We call it read the air, what's going on. So you have to, in order to make harmony with the musical instruments or whatever in the symphony, before you start to blow your trumpet, you have to listen to what other clarinets or violins are doing, right? In order to make music. So you have to listen to what others are doing or what others are saying, so that you will be able to keep the peace among people. And that goes the same for the nature. Basically, human is here. We are being lived by thanks to the nature. We're taking their lives in order to survive. And so we are part of the nature. So coexistence is very important. Just take what the little as you need, otherwise the nature will come back at you. So that was his teaching. So be kind of like an eco-friendly guy from 500 years ago. He knew, that should be the case. And so be aware of your surroundings the whole time, be sensitive to others and the nature, and the cooperation brings the mutual prosperity. So this Wa, you have to make compromise at some point. And also Kei, the respect, to show respect to people, nature, utensils, to everything. So whenever you hold the utensils, you may not see that utensils forever after this chance. So you have to show your respect by lifting up and then bow, and also to show the respect to whoever made the tea for you. So that's the ideology behind it. So be humble and thankful at all times. So to do so, you have to negate your selfishness, and then you'll be able to attain peacefulness in mind. Third one is the purity. Obtain cleanliness from both outside and inside. So it's easy to wash your hands and use Purell or whatever, and then you can sanitize your hands or mouth very easily. But he's talking about your mind, your heart. How can you tell somebody is having a very polluted, evil mind or spirit? You can't tell. So in order to keep purity inside, you have to empty your mind. So this is connecting to the Zen Buddhism, sitting and meditate. You clear your mind, all the zatsunen, those thinkings go away, and then that will lead you to attain purity in mind. Lastly, once you are able to achieve those harmony, respect, and purity, then you'll be able to attain this tranquility, stay. And then especially you have to make yourself attain this tranquility to keep calm in any situation or circumstances. Polish up one's senses and feel the surroundings. So listen to the boiling water and the sound of the wind and chirping of the birds. And then so just keep your senses clean and available, and be prepared for anything that happens around you, because you might not know what's going to happen to you or your friends or anybody. So you have to be ready at all times. So that's the teaching. So his ultimate teaching, I'm trying to, pun, I hope, right. But it's the Ichigo Ichie, this meeting once in a lifetime. Appreciate this very moment because it will never happen again. Life is short and ephemeral, so treat every moment of your life special. As I said, when he was around, the samurais were all battling each other, trying to figure out who's going to be the top of the world and killing each other, and meaning that you never knew what's going to happen to you. If you're going to live tomorrow or even today. That was at stake. Everything's burned down to ashes, and all the chaotic state. And he was saying, that's it. I just want to have a one single moment, share with the loved ones, and to appreciate that we are here together and just share the one bowl of tea together and be thankful for our being together here. So that's his teaching. So please do keep in mind of this teaching whenever you go see somebody you love, your parents, your friends. When you go to a restaurant, put the phones away, devices away, and give 100% when you eat somebody, because that person that you're eating with, she or he may not be there a day next, or maybe in a week. Who knows? Maybe get into the accident or get COVID. Who knows? So that's his teaching. So keep calm and have a bowl of tea. That's his teachings here. So quickly, his kind of a teaching theory is this. In order to train your body, you'll have to train your heart, and vice versa. By training your body, you can train your heart, and then along with it, your skill comes along. So you keep practicing. It's not about how you move and what you do and stuff. It's not about that. Doing so, you purity your mind, empty your mind, and you can nourish your heart. And then doing so, the skill comes along. And so the word heart cannot be spelled without art. Art is the very essence of nourishing our heart. So please, when you have to teach or in the future, don't get rid of the art from your life or from the teaching curriculum, because it's very important to nourish people to become a real human being, cultured person. So tea is considered as a department of Japanese arts because it involves these many arts: calligraphy, poetry, crafts, gardening, art, everything, cooking, cleaning, everything you need to know. And that's the reason why tea became a part of a teaching curriculum especially for the girls and the girls' school by the Meiji and then Showa period. So tea has a lot of good nutritious facts here. It has anti-aging, relaxation, teeth cleaning, fat burning, and so it's really good. So if you're drinking coffee, this might be the time that you can switch to matcha drinking because it's basically this tea leaves, it's coming from Camellia sinensis. It's young leaves. You're grinding it, you're putting into the hot boiling water, and you're eating the leaves as is. So that's why it's good. It has lots of vitamins. And so there are two types of tea. One is thick tea, and then the other one thin tea. I'm going to make thin tea today, along with this dried sweets. But it's very, very pure sugar sweets, and it's really good. So anyways, here it is, how the manner is supposed to go. But I will tell you this while I do it. So meantime, okay, I have about 10 minutes to do the performance. So I'm going to go downstairs and then I get ready for the tea. So I'll be right back.
Can we talk to each other meanwhile?
Sure. It won't take her long to set up in the other room, but sure, why not?
Right, why not? Oh, this is so interesting and exciting. I'm having some matcha tea right now.
I know, I feel bad. She just said I shouldn't be drinking coffee, and that's what I still have in the day. I should have gotten matcha for the day.
I heard that. It's
Yuko,
okay. You can
did
start
hear me?
drinking anytime.
Yuko, did you hear me? This is Janice, Sarah's mom. I have some
Oh,
matcha
hi.
right here. Right
You're
here.
drinking tea now?
I'm drinking some right now.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
It's a powdered form from Japan. I bought it in Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so I'm gonna go pick up my hot kettle. So I'll be right back. Okay. Normally I would have had this going on here, but I have a 2.5-year-old daughter who's running around here earlier. And today was her first dance lesson. Right, it's going right now. So I'm sorry I had to do this right now. But anyways, here it is.
We don't mind, Yuko. We appreciate this.
Thank you. All right. Then I hope you can see me and hear me. And I'm going to start the tea procedure part. So tea involves kind of like an all-day event that, it starts with the meal serving, and then you have a thick tea procedure, and then as like a dessert that you will eat, and then you take a break, and then come, no. Before that, so you have a meal, you have a break, and you come back, and then have a thick tea procedure. And then, and then you move on to the thin tea procedure. So you will see is this just the thin tea procedure here. So anyways, I don't really have a room for the door, so I'm going to start from here, but I will be performing tea over there. So as the same goes to other Japanese traditional arts, everything starts with a bow and ends with a bow. So I'm going to bow. So everybody bows all together. So normally we don't really talk during the tea ceremony, but since today is a special occasion, I'll tell you what I'm doing. So first, I'm going to purify the tea container. That doesn't mean that this is dirty. I'm just purifying symbolically this container. And as I'm doing this, I'm also purifying my mind, trying to empty my mind. I just open the hot water kettle lid. And then I'm going to put the hot water. I wish I could send you the smell of bamboo, fresh bamboo, but it smells really good. So first, I'm going to inspect this tea whisk that's also made by bamboo. And then I'm going to whisk it to kind of give the tea whisk exercise. Like a stretching part before the real tea making time. And then hot water basically sanitizes this tea bowl, and it makes the tea taste better if you put the tea to make the tea afterwards in that hot bowl. I'm wiping the tea bowl. Then picking up the tea scoop. And this is the moment that I will tell. Usually there is a guest here, so you are all the guests. But I'll tell you, dozo okashi o, meaning please have sweets. So this is the timing. It's perfect for the guest to start eating the sweets. The reason for that is that tea tastes a little bit bitter. So you want to make your mouth a little bit sweet first by eating the sweets. And then we don't put any milk or sugar into this tea. So by the time tea comes, then drink, then the sweet of your, in your mouth, sweetness and the bitterness kind of balances out. So that's why the timing is very important. So, dozo okashi o. So the guest starts taking the sweet and then start eating. Then in the meantime, I'm gonna make a tea. So I put 1.5 scoop, about maybe 3 grams of tea. Then open up the lid for the cold water glass. Then hot water. About the half cupful of this. Rest. I turn clockwise twice so that you will see the face of this tea bowl, which has Mount Fuji on it. Here, I'll put it to the guest, and then I will wait until the guest drinks and brings the tea bowl back to me again. So if you were a guest, so I'm going to be the guest from now on. So if you're a guest, you basically, once the host said, please have sweet, you'll pull out your paper. This is called kaishi paper, packet of paper. And then pick up the sweets here and then pass this tray to the next guest. And then you eat the sweet and then keep this top layer paper now. So this becomes a tray, sweets tray, but also it becomes a Kleenex afterwards. So you will basically use this to wipe your fingers once you finish drinking the tea. So now the tea comes to you, the face part comes to you, to your direction. And then before you start drinking, you'll have to do a couple of things. One is that you have to tell the next guest as osake ni, meaning sorry to go before you. And then you'll tell the host, me, this time, otemae chodai itashimasu, meaning I humbly receive your tea. So that's what you have to say. And then you pick up the tea bowl firmly onto your palm, left palm, and then lift up to show your appreciation. You know, this is the respect. And then turn clockwise twice. The reason is that the face of the bowl, the design part comes to you first directly, but you know, putting your lips onto that design part considered it's a little bit not, you know, polite. And so that's why you want to turn clockwise twice so that you won't be licking where the design is. And so after that, you drink. So I want to show you what the tea looks like. I hope we here, where is the camera? It's hard. So here is the tea. It's very neon green, can you see? And there are foam at the top. And that means it's really well mixed together. And so you will basically sip as many sips as you like. So at the end, you have to slurp. That's a very important slurp because that means it implies that you thoroughly enjoy this delicious tea. And also that slurp has a cue to the host to move on to the next step. And so it's an important slurp, so you have to do it. And then at the end, you have to wipe where your lips touched and then wipe your fingers with the paper that you had. And then turn counterclockwise and then bigger this time, and so that the face of the tea bowl will face to the host this time. So the tea bowl will come back to me, and then I will try to conclude part. So I'll put the hot water again, thinking that the guest might want to have second round. And then, so if the guest doesn't stop me, then I have to make the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, as many rounds as possible. But so the guest has to stop me. So これでおしまいください. Those, please conclude. And then I receive that as これでおしまいにいたします, meaning I'm going to finish with this. So you have a very important job to try to stop me. Otherwise, I'll be making more and more, and you'll be like, oh, too much tea. So I'm gonna rinse the whisk and then tea bowl. Put the linen cloth in. Put the whisk in. And wipe this tea scoop. Put the fukusa back on. Sorry, the order has. So with this, everything concludes. So everybody bows. So starts with nothing, ends with nothing. So that's the emptiness or nothingness that we talked about in the Zen Buddhism. Okay, sorry to go a little bit more, but thank you so much for everyone for your attention. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Yuko. And we have time to open it up for questions about the ceremony, the history, whatever. Please feel free. Thank you very much, Yuko.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed.
I have a question. This is Jennifer.
Hi,
Hi, hi. Konnichiwa. I actually had two questions. One might be quicker
Sure.
than the other one. But the first question is when, I think that's the first time I've heard that the giver will continue to make bowls until people say oshimai. Sure? But is the expectation that the receiver will in fact stop the giver after one bowl, or are you actually allowed to have multiple bowls?
Oh yes, you are allowed to have
I didn't know that.
multiple bowls, and obviously the hosts are expecting that. So today, because I'm the only one and nobody, as a guest, so I just only put these many sweets. But usually there are more sweets up on top of the tray, and it will be passed down from first guest, second guest, third guest, and they'll have multiple rounds of it. But I wanted to show you today what I have is this one. Can you tell what this is?
Is it strawberry?
It's an
No.
eggplant.
Yeah. Wow.
お茄子のお菓子なんです. Eggplant sweet. It's coated with sugar, and it's a nasu. The eggplant is a very auspicious vegetable or fruits. I don't really know. But nasu means koto o nasu. You can get things done. And also this is one of the items that you want to dream of on the night of the New Year's Eve. And so that, it's a auspicious item. And then I don't know if you can see, but this is bunbuku chakama. So there is a raccoon turned into the tea kettle. That's like an old folk tale of Japan, and you can see the raccoon on it, but it's a little dried sugar sweets here. So yeah, and I wanted to show you one more is the tea container. It should be reflecting the occasion or season, but this one was actually, can you see?
Yes, it's beautiful.
It's a biwa, yes, it's biwa on it, and on the side, it's a sho, the gagaku instrument, like a mouth organ. And my mom found this at the tea store, a tea utensil store, and then thought that this is a perfect theme for me because I'm the ethnomusicologist, and then I'm doing tea. And as you can see, this part is called raden. It's a pearl style that's kind of embossed into it. And so it's it's a prized possession of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And yes. And also inside is this neon green. So when you go to the store and to buy the tea powder, please make sure the tea is this color, the neon green. If it's turned purple or brown, that's usually oxidized and it's old, and so you don't want to buy that. So this is the color that I would like you to remember, because many of the tea stores might not know how to store it. And actually you can store this tea powder into the freezer, and that will stay fresh for a long, long time.
Yuko-san, we do have a question in the chat.
Yes, please do.
So I see a question.
If you don't mind reading, or because
Sure,
I can't
we have a question, whether you could speak about the intersections between the way of tea and the way of incense in Japanese culture.
The insects.
Incense, kobo. So
incense,
chado,
kodo.
kodo.
That's a good question. I'm not a practitioner of the kodo myself, so it's a very limited amount of information I have. But we do use those incense when we burn the charcoal, and we have a special this roundish the incense that we put into the hot ashes into the hearth, and also there's a wooden incense that we use and to burn, and so that makes it smells really nice. And also we have a incense container, like a little porcelain container. I have a bunch of them, but I actually hid it because my daughter was playing around with it. And so, but it has some containers that comes along with those incense to keep it. And then you actually view the incense container around. So the guests will want to see, what's the theme and color and what it, feels like. So you want to put it into your hand and to feel that utensils. So that's a very quick and easy answer for that. I hope.
And Justin has actually put a question in the chat, but I'll just continue to read any questions I see there.
Thank you.
And he's asking a question that actually came to my mind as well. So I'm glad you're asking this, Justin, about the idea of embodiment in Chado, and by extension, other performing arts of Japan.
Well,
and I'll say the second you entered your washitsu, your tatami space, I immediately I embodied okeiko. I went into lesson, and I see Justin nodding as well. And I had to sort of remind myself I'm not actually in a lesson and take my body out. So I was experiencing a certain amount of that, but we'd like to hear you as well. Please go.
Yes, well, my take is that, I have a little bit of a very tiny, but experience doing taking a no workshop of, learning how to stand, how to sit, how to walk. And then I felt like that is very, very, there are so much similarity of how you walk in the tatami mat room for the tea ceremony, especially even though, the no performance says they use the wooden floor and not the tatami mat, but the everything's kind of the same, that you're supposed to not walk like this. And obviously this is not really elegant, first of all, but then by walking like that, then the dust will come up, and, we're trying to serve the food here on the floor. And so of course you have to accommodate for that part. And whenever I walk, I do a suriashi, a little bit of sliding walking style that really very similar to what you see on the no stage, the no actors do. And also when you sit down, obviously you can't sit like, samurai like this. You have to be very elegant, and also, nihonbuyo too. And then, very, how should I say, make less noise as possible, and then keep the center, and then, very elegantly you have to sit. So those requires a lot of trainings. Just be, sitting, knees requires a lot of trainings too. So that kind of thing is very related to other traditional arts. And then I was told that when I started the koutaburi dancing, the Japanese geisha practice, I used to do ballet dancing. And so that was, first of all, totally different experience, because it's totally different muscles that you use. The Japanese dancing is more of an inner muscle that you use, except for as opposed to the ballet is the outer muscle you use. So my body was not built the way that it's supposed to be for the Japanese dancing. But anyway, once I start training that, my teacher told me that my movement started to be more and more refined and looks better, because I used to be just kind of doing tea like this, but then now I try to think about the performance part, like what looks good, what looks elegant from the guest perspective. And that's something that I get as it's very close to what Zeami and then no playwright was saying. How do you make yourself look like flower and how to play it. And so in a way, those are all not really written out, but it's supposed to be something that you will see and that you will experience, do it on your own, and your body will try to imitate and trying to make it more elegant as possible. And then that really is, very similarity you can find in tea ceremony or any other Japanese traditional arts, I think. So it's a transferable, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to highlight one gesture that you were doing, even though you were talking and not sort of like completely in the state of flow that one typically would enter. The gesture of, I'm trying to get it on the camera, that always strikes me so beautiful in Chado is the hand sliding down the arm of the utensil when you go to put it down. It's just such an elegant motion. So certainly, but we do have another hand up. So I want to make sure that we let Aya Sakonju.
Thank you so much for coming. It was really interesting, and this was my first time watching like a tea ceremony. But you kind of mentioned this before, and I feel like you sort of answered it in the question that you just answered. But you kind of talked about how it takes a really long time to master Chado, and I'm kind of wondering how, as someone who's kind of watching from the outside and isn't as experienced in it, how can you tell, like, what are some signs that immediately distinguish someone who has mastered Chado and someone who's more amateur?
Well, that's a good question because there is some anecdote of the Sen no Rikyu once said that he visited one of his friends, or I don't know, maybe former disciples' place, and who was hosting this tea ceremony. And obviously for him, it was a nerve-wracking experience to host your big master, tea master, at your home and to serve the tea. He is the it, and so like you're trying to serve the tea for your god, basically. And so very nervous, and he was crumbling and dropping everything, bits and pieces, but trying to do as best as he could to host him. And then after the tea masters and the Rikyu had the tea and then went outside, and then he was talking to other of his students about the experience, and everybody was criticizing because he did pretty badly with this and that, gestures and motions and everything. But the tea master said, this was the best tea I've ever had in my life, because it's not about how perfectly you perform the tea. It's about the heart that he felt. This person was making tea wholeheartedly, even though there are some, mishaps and stuff going on, but that doesn't matter. It's the heart that he felt. And so that's kind of a good, story to keep on telling, that I think, yes, everything is choreographed, everything is set. And so you have to be able to do everything correctly. But everybody is so fixated on that. And then you don't have to. The most important thing, again, is to have a good time and just to be thankful that we can share the tea here. And so it is, a very humbling experience for me to go see the big tea masters, especially Urasenke's head master's performance. If I can see that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like you're seeing, let's say, who are like a Lionel Richie's concert, in front of you, something like that. But it doesn't matter that you're sharing the same air. And yes, it's beautiful, but what's more important is that it's the tea and then the host thoughtfulness and the heart that I receive, and then that reflects to the taste of the tea too. And so so it doesn't matter how well you perform, how badly you perform. I think it boils down to is the heart to heart, that communication and an experience. So I hope I'm answering the question for that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions? I don't see anything else in the chat unless I missed something. No, then I'd like to thank Yuko-san once again for her wonderful demonstration. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for being here and sharing this time with me. That's a very, very honor for me. And please, everybody stay safe and stay healthy, and please be safe out there. And then let's have tea together, really in person, physically, sometime in the future.
Thank you so much. And Justin and I would like to before people disappear, just to say anybody who'd like to hang out and chit chat for a little bit, you're welcome to do so. You know, we don't have as many opportunities indeed to see each other in person, so we'd like to capitalize on these moments when we're in a Zoom room together to catch up with old friends and meet new ones. So hang out if you'd like to. All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'll go upstairs. I'll just put the hot water away because my daughter's coming back. But I'll come up and then come upstairs and come to the screen. So just a second.
Thank you.
Jennifer, I too, when
It was bizarre.
when we were setting things up, I didn't even notice that her platform had tatami on it. But when she started the ceremony, immediately my senses picked back up of the smell of tatami. It clicked in my head. I didn't expect it to happen. And I have not physically been on or smelled tatami in over 5 years, but the feel of it, of walking on it and smelling it in the room, crazy. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, and for me, it was seeing the tatami and then bowing, and then I had to check in with my body and realize that I had put my shoulders down, pulled on my tipped my pelvis underneath, and was ready, like I was sitting in seiza, getting ready for yoroshiku onegai itashimasu and getting up to do koutaburi or whatever it is I was studying.
Yeah,
that
was crazy. I did not expect it.
Yeah. So it's nice to see other people in the room, or many familiar names in here. Of course, I know Justin, and I see Fred. Hi, nice to see you. Fred was my music theory teacher in college, actually. So we've known each other a very, very, that was a long time ago, Fred. I hate to say it. That was over 30 years ago.
A while, yeah. Thank you so much. This was really wonderful, and it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. And Susan, I see you there. Hi, Susan.
I actually have a question.
Absolutely.
Maybe I could address it to Yuko. I'm interested in the social role of Chado, and is it still part of the cultivation of a young woman in Japan? Or has it become just an art form that that anyone can learn?
Did you hear that, Yuko-san?
I'm sorry, I just put the earphone on now. Hi.
I can ask it again.
Hi.
I'm wondering about the social role of Chado, and is it still part of a young Japanese woman's cultivation, or is it become an art form that is practiced by anyone interested?
That's a good question. Well, it's half and half in a way. The tea ceremony is still practiced. The Chado is still practiced at many schools, especially the girls' schools, because it involves all those cooking and cleaning and then being a good host. And so it has a valid educational component to it. However, the young people tends to be looking down on this traditional art, especially they think it's not cool because they want to practice hip-hop dancing and then they'll go into karaoke and then sing J-pop and everything. So that was kind of part of my experience too, that many of my friends looked at me like really strangely, like, why are you doing this? I was like, why not? You get to eat sweets and tea. Come on, right? Because I wasn't really thinking that seriously. I was just like, okay, I'll just go and hang out with my teacher and my friends and have a good time. And that was that. And so, so I learned about the history and then all other philosophy part much later on, after I came to the States. And that time that, I need to dig into more about, study about this thing because I have no idea what's going on. So in a way, they say they are trying to, they want to, especially the Urasenke school, they want to increase more practitioners, especially young people, because whenever you go to this tea study session, it's conferences, there are many of the, unfortunately, the white hair audiences. There are not many younger generation. I'm 41, but I'm considered still as a young generation, because behind me, there are not many are practicing. And so in a way, they are having a crisis of like how this tradition is going to go. How are we supposed to attract the younger audiences? And obviously people are kind of, especially like my parents and my grandparents' generation, they are afraid that this can really go away, as they go to their heavens. So so that there are some attempts that they are kind of a, what do you call that style? Goth style tea ceremony. One of the tea performers trying to make the pottery, the vase and tea container, tea bowls with the skull figures and then spiky things and death's symbol, and then make the tea room light up like those like attraction thing. And so they are trying to make those rooms and then utensils, everything trying to be more appropriate for our younger aesthetics, and to present it that way. But obviously those are still material culture that they are trying, attracting. Not many of those young people are inspired to practice tea by just looking at those kind of performance, because it's very limited aesthetically appealing for the young people. So I hope I'm answering the question. But
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
oh, thank you so much. I read your work so many times, and I'm very humbled to be here. So thank you for attending today's session.
And thank you for your enthusiasm. It is really, it really made the presentation so enjoyable.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We have another hand up from Janice.
Yes. Am I unmuted? Yes, I am. Hi, I'm
Good to see you.
I'm from Massachusetts, and I've known Yuko. Well, I met her when she was about 9 or 10 years old, right?
Yes.
And my youngest daughter, who just turned 40, became her friend on Cape Cod.
Yes, she's my best friend.
Her first name is Sarah, and she lives in North Carolina. And what I wanted to say was the first time I had an experience of drinking green tea was when Yuko and Sarah had that little family ceremony. Do you remember that a little bit?
Yes, I do.
And you gave her a kimono, and I have pictures somewhere.
Yes, I have pictures too. But that was the time that I just started taking the tea lessons, and I didn't know much about this whole philosophy and history at all. I just enjoyed serving tea, and I'm so grateful for your daughter for helping me out that time, just whiskey and serving and everything.
It was my first time ever having green tea. I think it was first time ever hearing of green tea. And
Yes.
I have to admit, when I was a young mother and I was used to coffee drinking, like I think it was Justin was saying, I do like coffee. And it was like, it was shocking a bit to me, like, whoa, this is an actual drink that people like. But now I like it a lot. But it's
glad.
Acclimating your taste buds to get away from, I used to put sugar in my coffee, which I don't anymore, but that sweet. And I loved what you said about the sweets. Yes. And having the tea at its plain.
It balances out. So it has meanings. Yes.
Yes. And I do that with my coffee. I don't have sugar or cream in my coffee either. And I love to have a dessert with it because
please do.
With coffee. And it was such a great, I just love the ceremony. And all of you don't know, my cousin Rose was on, and I invited her last night. She's half Japanese and half American. She lives in the Baltimore area, and her dad is my mom's twin, And her dad married a woman from Japan. That is the connection when he was in the
Yes,
army.
you mentioned to me like a long time ago, so I just vaguely remember that.
Yes, yeah, she's a doctor also. She's an officer in the army and whatnot. But she was running late, and she just got off a plane. And I said, "Well, just come in late if you can." And she was there. Her camera wasn't on, but that was okay. She said she loved it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Please, thank you for inviting everybody else for this occasion. So please tell her thank you for tuning in too.
I will. Arigato, right?
Yeah, arigato.
Arigato. Is that thank you? Is arigato thank you?
Yes, it is. It is perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for your comments. And thank you for being here. Really. It's so good to see you.
See you too. It was lovely.
Thank
Really.
you. Say hi to your family for me.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everybody, for being here. I think the one thing I'd love to be able to just chit chat for a moment while Justin is in the room, and because he and I don't see each other much either. I'm in New York and he's in Arkansas.
That's right.
It was such a lovely event, and I'm leaving with a lot of ideas. Like, I teach Surek's book on making tea in my anthropology of contemporary Japan, and we talk about embodying nation through tea ceremony, and I just love it. So I'm looking forward to the recording and perhaps bringing you in the next time I teach that class. Even how like sitting seiza is nation building. These kinds of ideas. And yes, that is a bird flying in my home office, but she's
wow.
okay. We'll just ignore her. Yeah.
What kind of bird do you have?
An African gray.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what she was doing, but at any rate, what I actually wanted to, and I love the idea of goth tea, right? If we're thinking about some of the ways we're keeping traditional music in the hands of practitioners, is the potential for syncretization with other styles, right? From wagaki to baby metal to,
Yeah, exactly. I should have shown the picture of it, but I thought like, okay, I may not have enough time to show everything. And so
I think it's very cool. I'd love to see those pictures. And so we could, that would be fabulous, because I have some ideas of you've got me thinking about some final performative projects with students where we could, take them into new spaces like that. But keep the traditional practices alive, recognizing that tradition is inherently transformative and constantly changing.
Exactly. Yeah. Good. It's very good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that idea. But again, while Justin is in here, I'll come to the point I was hoping to get to, is just what would we like to do for other sessions like this? This was a great one, but what other sessions could we possibly start to brainstorm?
Yeah, Yuko, when Jennifer and I were brainstorming this, we thought it'd be great to start with you because, from the inception of this group, yes, you're awesome. But the inception of this group is that a lot of the special interest groups, ICTM and within SEM, they're all very music focused, but and that's why I asked that question about embodiment too, is that everything is so interconnected in Japanese performance that it's hard to divide them. So why do that? So that's why we really wanted to start with something that wasn't music. And I'm so glad that this worked out.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. There was a really good opportunity for me to think, rethink about the connection, especially between those Zen, having the Zen in the middle, that you have the no, and you have the tea ceremony, and right around the same time, these were happening. And obviously, there were lots of exchanges between those. And so that's something that we need to, I'm hoping that we can talk more about it, this interrelationship, I guess. And,
and to maybe answer that question, Jennifer, Christine just put in the chat that she's an interloper, but that's awesome. What would an outsider, if you want to call yourself that, what would you want to see us present next?
Right, thank you. And Susan's my friend, and I run the MIT Japan program here in Cambridge, in Boston. So thank you, Yuko-san. it was just, I feel like I was like transported in, it is like a history lesson of, 1,000 years condensed. And, I loved it. And your enthusiasm is so contagious, right? It makes like, oh my gosh, and you can like recruit so many young people because, we do tea ceremony here at MIT. There's a different, more senpai, and it was like putting the students to sleep, right? But with someone like you, I think you can recruit a lot.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you.
And I really thank you, Susan, and thank you for allowing me to join in on your sessions. And to Justin's questions, what a great way of bringing in the various art form, right? And I don't know if you're just focusing on Japanese art form or not, but then from here you can just go in different tangent. That one of the slides that you had, right? I think you listed the different forms of Japanese art.
Yes. It
From
was
whether
less
it
like,
be
close to calligraphy, poetry,
yeah.
culinary, gardening, architecture, like you name it. It's like everything is involved.
From the gardens, it could be a tea garden. You can have, pick a Japanese garden, right? And what does it mean? You can go in, oh, it's very nice. But to have someone give you a special tour in a meeting, which you did, right? You were explaining to, as you were going through, was for a quote, an outsider, right? If you're not a specialist like all of you are, you get to have the insight. You feel like you're let in on the secret.
Yes.
So I think, again, the theme wise is just gonna be Japan wise, and that in itself, you can have a whole course, right? Or are you going to try to find one of the classes that we did for our first year was, we did tea, but it was like the British tea.
Oh, cool.
Right. British tea, Japanese tea, Chinese tea, and try to have like a connection, right?
Yes, that sounds fantastic.
Right. So you could do it that way.
My student just gave me this from China, the tea brick.
Oh, I know.
Wow. Dancha.
He's like, it's so takai mono, kore. He says, I'm like, why are you giving me this? I don't want that.
That's a very old
beautiful
style. Yeah, it's supposed to be. That's how the tea started. So before it became this matcha form, the tea came to Japan was that dancha. It's like, brick style. So I do need to study more about that tea too.
Right. China sort of stopped, and Japan continued and refined it to what it is right now. So you have that dichotomy of their origin and what it can be. Right. Yeah. Like my husband drinks this like Chinese, he's Chinese, and like this really expensive hundreds of dollar tea from Taiwan, and he gets it from the kung fu master because and you're like,
cool.
Really?
Right. So I think that sort of trichotomy, right? I mean, British tea, and how British have the Indians because of that Silk Route, but then the British culture and the colonization. And then if you go to like East Africa, I used to live in Nairobi in Kenya, and there's a whole tea culture there too. So you can do it, that sort of interlay.
Yes,
from that
fantastic course there.
I think you could, what's interesting about that as a course, because on the one side, you just start going, okay, we're all, hopefully, a lot of us are really thinking about what we're teaching to make sure that we're thinking about DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And in some ways, when you're teaching, the Japanese traditional arts, you kind of go, okay, how am I gonna structure this? But when you to feed that need that our students really have. But the way you just presented that just got a little, cog moving that was probably stuck from COVID to think about. Think about this as a social justice issue as well. What was happening with the evolution of tea, the development of tea in all these different nations, how the colonizing project impacted people negatively along that route. India as well, bringing India and the tea market and trade there, the commercialization of tea and what happened to people's bodies as a result. It's another route to go as a course. I'm not sure if that's
not art form. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure that's what we could do that would be the most appropriate thing for Justin and I to do in hopefully this lecture series. I'm sorry, my bird decided she's going to have a party. trying to
She's
catch
telling
her,
us
but
what she wants to hear, right?
yeah, right. She's having a little dance party over there. But I love the idea. I love it.
Yeah.
And I also saw, we have these things called a Minerva course that you have different faculty come in and teach around an important topic. And you could take something like tea, and then you could have the engineers coming in and talking about architectural design. And you could have your visual artists coming in and talking about calligraphy, and your religious philosophy studies faculty coming in and talking about Zen. I think there's a lot of really beautiful kinds of interdisciplinary course possibilities, and again, the social justice issue as well. I love that.
And Yuko-san was just mentioning about dance, right? My daughter goes to this dance school that is into this community and social justice, and they have right now a whole series of dance from India, well, the Japanese dancer is now a nurse, so she can't really do that, but the whole series of different types of dances, and kind of like the celebration. So, and then a lot of the dance, like the Japanese, is storytelling, right?
Yes.
So, you can from the hula, the Native American, if that's the social justice, aspect, or at least, the diversity, right? Bringing in that and telling, how do you tell stories, and sharing that is also, I think, through dance, might be an interesting course too.
Yes, I agree.
I might like to really think about something with movement.
So we did a session, or our Brazil program. They brought us a carimbe, I think. I forget, one of the Brazilian, and they talked about it, and then everybody got up and awkwardly on Zoom did different steps.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I'd like to take that class too.
We're all kind of sitting too much, And
I know.
Yes, exactly.
And we did also have the possibility of bringing one of our many fine shakuhachi players in to talk, and that certainly would connect with Zen, so we could build upon that focus as well, Zen arts, because then you could bring one of the No folks in. I don't. But if anybody has any other, and it doesn't have to be just Japan too. Like, we're very interested in Asian American arts as well. So, or broader Asian Brazilian. Let's not limit by the word Japan. That means this monolithic has to be originated here in Japan and be iconic Japanese art. Even though tea ceremony, many people think of it that way, it is still intersectional and global too.
Yeah, I like the idea of cultural transmission. So that way you can involve many different cultures that have connected in some way through an art form, or that involves dance and music, maybe even. So this notion, it could be a panel at one of the conferences that could demonstrate curricular ideas for creating a broader look at many different cultures under a particular theme, or under a particular cultural artifact or tradition. So it has a lot of possibilities. It's great.
That's an interesting idea to think about that as a panel, because Justin and I were just talking before the session, like we didn't push panels. Sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not. I've done a couple the past couple of years, so I didn't want to do one again this coming year. But this gives us something to think about, something new and fresh.
Something to model for people who are going to come to the panel.
Yeah.
Curricular ideas, because I don't think people think about it. Yeah.
I feel like that's all I'm thinking about right now.
Yes.
Any other ideas to share? Justin, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I've had in my mind that we would go more musical the next time. And shakuhachi seems to make sense because it can be something that can easily be seen on a Zoom screen. Taiko would be awesome, but
the sound,
you run into a lot of sound issues with that kind of thing. But I love the idea of calligraphy too. I have been to several of calligraphy demonstrations, and they really can be so interpersonal. They can really bring you into it, like Yuko did here today too. For shakuhachi might be a little like the hand does go up a little bit, where you're invited so easily into the tea ceremony. I think you can be invited in many ways into a calligraphy demonstration. So that would be beautiful. I would love that. I don't know anyone who could do that, but
you could even tie the calligraphy into the notation of the shakuhachi.
Yeah.
That's of interest to me. The notation. Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. I think that I'm seeing that shakuhachi calligraphy, and actually the gardening one that you mentioned, that one stuck with me, because one of the things that I have a disorder now, I can't fly anymore, so I can't go to Japan. And so that's sort of heartbreaking. And so when you mentioned gardening, I was like, oh, if we could connect with somebody who could walk us through gardening in Japan, that would just make my heart warm and beat louder. So
if you're interested,
so
I'm sorry,
cool.
Justin. The International House of Japan is celebrating its 70-year anniversary this year, and since the pandemic, they have hosted the garden tour by the garden master of their garden, and they've done it by Zoom. So I don't know, they're planning to do another one because it was quite well received by people, right? I mean, they walked through and they said, this is this tree, and this is, how we tend to this tree, and, this rock is placed here because, right? I could put you in touch, or I can send you the link.
That would be great.
Yeah,
So
I love the idea of connecting to Japan, because I haven't been in many years, but I did not expect that connection to tatami today. I didn't expect to smell tatami today.
Oh, you smelled it today?
Absolutely. That sensory memory.
Just by looking at.
So I was telling them while we were setting up your cameras, I didn't really even notice you were on tatami. But as soon as you started to walk on in the ceremony, I noticed it and I thought, whoa, there's that smell. And I think it actually had a lot to do with you walking on it.
So you were able to hear me sliding?
Yeah.
I try to do it a little bit more like prominent so that you can, the device will pick it up. So that
I was trying to explain that to my class this semester. We were talking about aesthetics, and I was trying to explain that everything is intentional. So I'm so glad you slid your foot, because I'm going to prove it to them. Sliding my feet on the carpet in a building doesn't really do it.
You get static.
That's right. Your hair is stuck.
Yeah, this idea of being able to connect to someone physically in Japan is really quite amazing. The time difference is going to be terrible, but I think it's worth looking into that.
I think we could do it. Early morning Japan, evening for us, something like that. Could really be beautiful. And then to have shakuhachi, calligraphy, gardenings, all coming from the tea ceremony, all connected and across a year of, like every 3 months.
Yeah.
And see if we can get that, then we'd have a whole year-long series we would have done. And I'm for it, Justin. I think we should keep pushing. You guys like that idea? I love it.
Yeah.
It sounds wonderful to me.
Yay. And it's all because you did such a great job today. I can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor. I was really actually nervous. Very, very nervous.
Oh no, then next year you can, give us an introduction to the kouta. We'll have you do that. Not a launch next year's series.
I'll be happy to. But I'm seriously that I'm very honored to be here, and thank you for inviting me. And if you are inviting like a Japanese speaker in the future, I'll be happy to be an interpreter if you like me to be. Because I love talking to Japanese people, but also I kind of like to make fun of those speakers, put some little jokes in it or something like that. So if you are running out of options or something like that, I'll be happy to be the interpreter and make it a little bit more fun and trying to connect to those younger audience, bringing in some newer jokes too. So
thank you so much. Yeah, and if you think, I think that I may have some leads on gardeners. I might not. Plus, I would love to have Christine's contact. That would be a fabulous route to go. Calligraphy is I'm a little less sure about that. So Yuko-san, if you know anybody in your, sekai who can help us with that, that would be
I'll think
fabulous.
about it and I'll talk to some other people. But not that I know of now. I know there was a gardener's talk at Pitt the other day, and I unfortunately couldn't attend it, but I might just talk, ask around to the Asian Studies Center and see what they recommend.
Wonderful.
Well, or maybe your Japan societies. Like, I think there's a Japan society down in your region too, right? We have one in Boston, and sometimes they have a good list of members that might possess these skills, like even calligraphy.
That's a good point. Yes. So I can reach out to Japan Society in New York City.
Yeah, I'll ask around too. We have a small one, but the Japanese Japan America Society for Pennsylvania here too. So I will ask around too.
Wonderful. Well, I have to get going. So I have to go take care of horses tonight. So I have to go do my other life, which is to go take care of the horses.
Horses.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Can I say?
Thank you very much, Yuko. And
thank you.
Thank you, Yuko-san.
Chatting.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you.
Yes. And Christine, tell Ian I said hi. I haven't seen Ian in a while. Yeah.
If you want Japanese pop music and DJ, you can ask him, right?
Yeah, the DJ. But yeah,
DJ Oyaji. So
I gave a talk. I think the last time I saw him was I came and did a talk on Hatsune Miku at MIT, but that was quite a few years ago now.
Gosh, I was on the door side. That was like 6 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but it was nice. Yeah.
Well, nice to meet you all. Thank you, Susan, for letting me. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great
Such a
seeing you.
great
Thank you for
lecture.
having me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.